Okay, so once again, I'm gonna be recommending 3 animes for you guys to watch, and I try to keep them underrated. I could easily just recommend some animes that everybody has heard of, everybody has watched, but I try to keep it underrated, not a lot of people heard of, just in case you want to watch something that you haven't seen before and you've seen most anime. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. So the first anime I'm going to recommend is The Ancient Magus Bride. This anime follows Chise Hattori, who has lived a full life of neglect, rejection, and trauma, and with no family or home, she decides to sell herself at an underground auction, willing to go to anyone who will take her in. And she's bought by Elias Ainsworth, who's a tall, mysterious, non-human sorcerer with an animal skull for a head. Elias tells Chise he's bought her to be both his apprentice and his bride. He takes her to his home in England where she's introduced to the world of magic, and this includes fairies, dragons, and ancient spirits. Chise then learns that she's actually a rare being with a powerful magic that attracts supernatural creatures, but this power also threatens her life because it drains energy too quickly. And as the story unfolds, Chise begins to learn about the beauty of pain, life, love, magic, and her relationship with Elias, it does become more complicated because he struggles to understand human emotion. So this anime, I would say, even though it's not considered mainstream, it definitely has like a cult-like fan base of a lot of people who do like it. And the first half of the series, I would say, kind of takes its time establishing itself, establishing the world that has like magic and stuff. And then it takes a complete 180 for the second half, and that's when it becomes darker, has a darker tone, and becomes more serious. The next anime I'm going to recommend is Under Ninja. Under Ninja is a modern offbeat take on the ninja genre where ninjas never truly disappeared from Japan, but instead went underground after World War II. Continuing to operate secretly within Japanese society, this series follows a low-ranking unemployed ninja who's barely scraping by, but he's suddenly handed a covert assignment, which is to infiltrate a high school. And he's tasked with observing and gathering intelligence while blending into everyday student life. He navigates a bizarre world where ancient ninja traditions collide with the nuance of often absurd realities of modern society. So you sort of have this thing where old traditions, because ninjas were obviously from back then and follow more older, concepts, and then you have modern day life, and then they blend, which sometimes it doesn't really work. And then in this series, it does kind of have like that comedy aspect of these two things blending. This series mixes action, comedy, and social satire, exploring how some organizations manipulate events behind the scenes while highlighting the struggles of underdog ninjas trying to find purpose in a world that has largely forgotten them. This series does have mixed reviews, and part of that I feel like is because it has so many different genres in one. Because one, you have like the fight scenes, and when I say fights, it's not just fights. Some of the scenes themselves are like gruesomely graphic, with a lot of blood and gore and stuff like that. And then you have the comedy aspect to it, which is here and there and blend stuff together. So you kind of have two different spectrums just kind of coming together. It is a kind of weird blend of genres. So it can make the story feel all over the place for some people, but I do think it is actually a decent show. And part of that is because of the animation, because the animation doesn't have the typical anime style where it's kind of colorful. It's very grim and dark. Kind of reminds me of this other series called Another, the animation that is. But Another was more of a horror, like complete horror series. This does have other genres mixed in it, like I mentioned earlier. The next anime I'm going to recommend is Love of Kill. This series starts with the character Chateau, who's a stoic and professional bounty hunter who works for an underground agency. And then there's Reng Ha, who's a charming yet deadly hitman with an air of mystery. And their fates intertwine when Chateau is assigned to capture Reng Ha. But instead of killing her or fleeing, he develops a strange fascination with her, and he begins appearing at her missions and even eliminating her targets before she can, and then calls her afterwards just to ask her out for dinner. So yes, you do have like this assassin type series with romance in it, and it is definitely interesting. And despite her being irritated and cautious, Chateau can't completely ignore him, especially since his constant interference starts to actually save her life in some scenarios. Over time, she becomes reluctant, drawn into his world of espionage and violence, and as the story unfolds, we start to learn a little bit more about him, and how he's tied to a traumatic event from Chateau's past, and one she has long since buried. Their connection goes much deeper than both of them initially realized, involving a deadly organization and assassins from her childhood, entangled into a web of betrayal and revenge. This anime balances gunfights and like cat and mouse type chases, and then it has the whole not so traditional romance aspect to it, with them both being assassins and all. But throughout the series, their relationship does become something both tragic and intimate, and basically you have this love and death thing, which kinda hints the name of the series, Love of Kill. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.